I thought I could address this question slightly differently, because obviously everybody knows the statistic about the link between energy and water. 70% of the water used for agriculture and 10% of the energy necessary for cleaning or capturing water, etc., etc. And there is plenty of experts in the room and on stage to talk much better than I can do about this issue. This issue is quite relevant, but we sometimes miss a global perspective, because when we talk about water and energy, we always say it's not a global issue yet, it's a multi-local issue, because the conditions are so different country by country, region by region, that it's difficult to talk about a global problem. And there, among the other things that Ivo has not said, I am French, you can hear that by the English. I am Brazilian also. I spent 25 years of my life in Brazil, and I am a Brazilian citizen. And by the way, don't ask a visa to enter India when you are binational, because it's quite complex, but okay, that's a remark. And I'm just coming from Bhutan, where I was yesterday and the day before. So we must ask, what all this has to see with our problem? France, Brazil, and Bhutan. And what do they have in common? Very simple. They all have a huge problem of water and energy. So this is perhaps not so multi-local. And in 10 seconds, why they have a huge problem of water and energy? Not because of the water that has been given by God or by nature to them, because they are all very rich country in terms of water, but because we have created us condition for this problem. Brazil currently 70% energy coming from hydro, and this is now because hydro regime is changing, rain is changing, the reservoirs are low. We have forgotten that very rightly we wanted to protect the forest Amazonian. We have not built reservoir for the dams currently. And then the wind power provided by Mr. Tulsi here has no longer sufficient backup. So we are reopening the thermal plants. So that's the first thing. France, in 2006, we had a big heat wave, or 2003. And we just realized that the water was absolutely necessary to cool down the nuclear plants. And when the heat wave is there, you don't have the right temperature or the right availability of water. So we have now an emergency plan to make sure that we have the water to cool down the plant. The same thing, we are experiencing a different melting pattern in terms of ice, and the water now is no longer available where it was. So we have to change the water intake of our dams. And by the way, to finish with Bhutan, you must know much better than I do that they have huge problem of natural dam, and they have to build natural drain if they don't want to harm the country in a very serious manner. So all these countries that have nothing in common have one thing in common. Power and water are very serious issues, and they are not serious issue tomorrow. They are serious issue today. And this is why I wanted to address slightly differently this question. I think we should not focus too much, only on the future, but we also have to focus on today. And this is where the resilience problem comes. Because we all talk about adaptation, and for particularly this subject, I prefer to talk about resilience. Because the problem is not to adapt to something we don't know, because the only thing we know is that the future will be quite different from the past. And perhaps for the first time in man's life, we cannot rely on the past to work on the future. We have to rely on what's happening now. And what's happening now needs absolute energy in concentrating on not making our system more resistant. We were talking about system this morning, Ivo, but making more resilient, which means able to come back quickly to the initial states after the event. This is absolutely possible. We have all the technology, and the role of the business is to provide this technology. I will come back in conclusion to one or two conditions for this technology being scaled up and used. We certainly have difficult issues to arbitrate. We touch an element of the system and we dysregulate the other one. Plenty of examples that sometimes a solution that we choose for mitigation purpose is against adaptation and resilience, and vice versa. We can choose resilient solution that led us to use an energy source which is not good for the CO2. The GEI that Ivo mentioned, which is the Global Electricity Initiative under the joint leadership of World Energy Council and World Business Council and Sustainable Development, has asked 89% of the electricity producers in the world what were their two more important challenges for the future. And surprisingly, the answer was, number one, land availability. Number two, water availability. They have not talked about oil and gas, about machines, about price, no. Land, water, which is exactly the core of our afternoon speech. So, in conclusion, because Ivo always is very careful about the time, what the business can bring is technology, as we said, but for the scale-up, we need policy, long-term stable policy. I always say R&D is not an act of God. Research and development is a careful decision based on a clear vision of a market opportunity. So I fully agree with all that has been said about subsidy and distortion of market, but the number one condition for R&D to develop is confidence in stability of rules, not more than that. So number one, we need that. And number two, we need a clear price signal. But not only what have been presented this just before by the minister, we are always talking about the price signal of the end product. But we have to be very careful with the price signal of the resources we use for the end product. I don't think it's meaningful to talk about shale gas if we don't talk about real price of water and real price of land use. And certainly, we are making decisions here and there on distorted price elements for the whole chain of our decision. And finally, to conclude on Ivo triangle, Ivo, I am not so pessimistic or realistic that you are on your triangle, but I just remind one sentence, I think, of Henry Ford I. He said, if I had asked to the customer what they wanted when I proposed the first car, they probably would have answered, we want faster carriage. And I had invented the car even though, and proposed the car. Thank you for your attention.